Once upon a time, an extraordinary event occurred, a dream transformed into reality, but not in the way anyone expected. My sister-in-law, Lily, and I found ourselves at the center of a life-changing moment, an astonishing inheritance of around $300 million and the responsibility of managing our own company. The sheer magnitude of this gift left us speechless, our emotions a whirlwind of shock, excitement, and a sense of destiny unfolding before us. The news of our sudden fortune spread like wildfire through the company. Our colleagues, initially hesitant, couldn't help but whisper among themselves. Lily, reveling in the moment, made sure to bask in the attention she received. She held her head high, flipping her hair dramatically as she walked through the office halls. "I prefer subtlety," she would say, despite doing the exact opposite. Meanwhile, an unexpected twist unfolded. My husband was granted a separate inheritance, ownership of another company and a staggering sum of $3 million. The announcement caused an uproar among the employees. One of them, unable to contain their amusement, let out a laugh, while my older brother, Thomas, and his wife, Lily, stood frozen in place. My brother, clutching a legal document from my father's lawyer, suddenly turned pale. His hands trembled as his eyes scanned the pages, his face growing more and more ashen with every word he read. Then, without warning, Lily let out a piercing scream, her voice filled with disbelief and rage. "I am Anna, 29 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I have been a part of my father's business. Since my youth, I watched him pour his heart and soul into building his company from the ground up. I understood the sacrifices, the sleepless nights, and the endless negotiations it took to make the company what it was today. My parents had always wanted me to attend college and explore my own path, but my heart belonged to the business. I refused to be just an observer, I wanted to be in the thick of it. When I graduated high school, instead of heading off to university like my brother, I started working alongside my father. One of his most trusted employees, Max, took me under his wing. Unlike others who might have treated me as the boss's daughter, Max trained me like any other employee. He taught me how to navigate the complexities of business, the importance of strong leadership, and the art of making tough decisions. Thomas, my older brother by 2 years, took a different path. He pursued a degree in business management, certain that his education would guarantee him the title of president one day. He surrounded himself with friends who admired his seemingly inevitable inheritance. To them, Thomas was destined for success, the future boss of a thriving company. "What about your sister?" his friends would ask. Thomas always dismissed the question with a wave of his hand. "Anna doesn't care about the finer things in life. She's content with working in the background." His confidence in my disinterest only solidified his own self-importance. He believed that by marrying Lily, a woman obsessed with luxury and status, he would reinforce his claim to the company. Together, they lived extravagantly, always dining at the most expensive restaurants, flaunting designer clothes, and traveling to the most exclusive destinations. At family gatherings, Lily often looked at me with disdain. "You don't dress like a boss's daughter," she once sneered, her perfectly manicured fingers tapping against a crystal glass of wine. I shrugged. "I don't need to, that doesn't define me." Lily laughed, shaking her head. "You have no idea how to handle wealth." Thomas nodded in agreement. "She's right, Anna, if you ever want to lead, you need to act like it. Confidence is everything." I had no interest in proving myself to them. My father and I were the only ones with real authority in the company. My mother, ever the voice of reason, reminded me that my contributions mattered, even if Thomas and Lily refused to acknowledge them. Time passed, and my father threw himself into expanding the business. But one evening, as we sat in his office, he winced, clutching his chest. My heart pounded as I rushed to his side. "Dad, are you okay?" His breathing was labored. "There's a letter for you, in the drawer," he whispered. "If something happens to me, read it. The rest is for the lawyers." His grip on my arm weakened. I screamed for help, dialing an ambulance, but it was too late. My father never woke up again. Thomas and Lily, who were vacationing abroad, took their time returning home. When they finally arrived, their casual attitude was unbearable. "At least we made it back in time for the funeral," Thomas remarked nonchalantly. I clenched my fists. My mother and I had been handling everything alone while they indulged in their extravagant trip. "Did you even try to come home sooner?" I asked. Thomas shrugged. "We had our flights booked. It wasn't like we could cancel everything." At the funeral, Thomas took center stage, making empty promises to the employees. "Trust me," he declared. "I will take my father's place and lead this company to greatness." Lily clung to his arm, nodding. "That's right, Thomas is the rightful heir." I watched in disbelief as they turned my father's funeral into a self-congratulatory spectacle. My patience snapped when Thomas began barking orders at employees, treating them like servants. Even Max, my father's most loyal employee, was not spared his arrogance. "Thomas, stop," I said sharply. "They're not your servants. Show some humility." Thomas scowled. "They should respect me. I'm the president now." Lily smirked. "That's right, Anna. If you don't listen, Thomas can fire you. He has the power now." Before I could respond, a voice interrupted. "I'm sorry to interrupt," a man said, stepping forward. "Your father entrusted me with handling his inheritance." The lawyer's presence sent a ripple of tension through the room. The moment of truth had arrived. I vividly recalled my father mentioning a lawyer before he passed, a sign that he had carefully considered what would happen to his legacy. When the lawyer finally arrived to discuss the inheritance, my brother Thomas and his wife Lily were visibly eager. Their eyes gleamed with excitement, ready to claim what they believed was rightfully theirs. They ushered the lawyer into the room, their smiles wide with anticipation, wanting to settle matters as quickly as possible. However, their excitement turned to sheer disbelief as the lawyer began reading the will. "Wasn't my father's inheritance worth $300 million? Thomas blurted out, his voice shaking as if he had misheard. Lily clapped her hands together in delight. $300 million? That's incredible. Owning a company with that much wealth is like a dream come true," she exclaimed. Whispers spread among the employees, and Lily, basking in her moment of triumph, raised her hand, calling for silence. "Everybody, be quiet. This is the moment when the company and $300 million officially pass to Thomas." At that, one employee couldn't contain his laughter. Thomas frowned, irritated, but ignored it as he grabbed the will and began reading. The color drained from his face as his eyes darted over the lines. Lily, peering over his shoulder, frowned in confusion. Then, suddenly, a scream of frustration erupted from her lips. "This can't be right," Thomas bellowed, shaking the papers as if doing so would change their contents. His hands trembled as he glared at the lawyer. "This has to be a mistake." The lawyer maintained a professional tone. "I assure you, Mr. Thomas, this is a legally binding will. Your father made his wishes clear. The company and its assets are to be inherited by the oldest daughter, Anna." Silence fell over the room. "This is a joke, right?" Thomas's voice was almost a growl now. "How can Anna be the president instead of me? Maybe Dad wasn't in his right mind when he made this decision." The lawyer hesitated slightly. "There is always the possibility that a will can be contested, but I assure you that your father's mental state was thoroughly assessed. His intentions were deliberate." That was enough for me. I refused to let them tarnish my father's reputation just because they didn't like his decision. I straightened my posture, looking Thomas directly in the eye. "You should be ashamed of yourself," I said, my voice steady. Dad wasn't confused. He knew exactly what he was doing. Thomas clenched his fists. "Are you saying I'm not good enough to be president?" "That's exactly what I'm saying," I shot back. "You've never once contributed to the company. You were too busy spending money and putting on a show." "Ridiculous," Thomas spat. "Lily and I even built a mansion fit for a company president. We made sure I looked the part." I let out a bitter laugh. "A mansion? Lavish vacations? Extravagant dining? You think that's what makes a president? All that money, you didn't earn a single cent of it. Dad paid for everything. He saw it as your share of the inheritance long before he passed. That means there's nothing left for you now." Lily gasped. "Wait, what? Are you saying the $300 million is already gone? That's not fair." One of the employees who had been laughing earlier stepped forward. "That money wasn't personal inheritance, it belonged to the company," he explained. "None of us here expected to inherit it. We all knew it was meant to support the business." Lily's face paled. "Then, what do we get?" I folded my arms. "Very little, I imagine." Desperation seeped into Thomas's voice as he turned to the employees. "Do you really want Anna as your president? You should believe in me instead. I have the same charisma as my father." Max, one of our oldest and most respected employees, stepped forward. "Your father had charisma, yes, but you and he are not the same person. What you have is arrogance, not leadership." Thomas's expression darkened. "That's not true. I networked, I made connections. Connections alone won't run a company, Max countered. Anna works tirelessly, learning every aspect of the business firsthand. She earned our respect. She reminds me of your father in that way. The other employees murmured in agreement. A lump formed in my throat, but I swallowed it down. Their support meant the world to me. Thank you, I said sincerely. I may have suddenly inherited this position, but I promise you, I will dedicate myself to this company just as my father did. I will need your help. The employees clapped, and I bowed deeply, humbled by their encouragement. As their applause died down, I turned to Thomas. A true leader values their employees. If you can't even do that, you don't belong here. Thomas fumed. You can't fire me. I'm your brother. Then you should have thought twice before threatening to fire me if you had become president, I replied coldly. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Seeing the unwavering faces around him, he realized he had no allies left. Without another word, he stormed out, dragging Lily with him. After that, Thomas found himself jobless and reliant on the small inheritance he had received, but his reckless spending habits drained it quickly. When he ran out of money, he came crawling back, asking me for a loan. I refused. Even our mother, who had always doted on him, saw the truth and refused to support his lavish lifestyle any longer. His so-called friends abandoned him when they realized he had no power. Lily, once desperate to be a company president's wife, was forced to face reality. They eventually sold their mansion just to stay afloat. The money lasted for a while, but soon enough, they had nothing left. With no experience or skills, finding jobs was nearly impossible. Eventually, Thomas ended up working part-time at a convenience store, taking orders from employees younger than him. Lily, no longer able to live a life of luxury, joined a group of part-time housewives, working as a supermarket cashier from morning to night. Meanwhile, I dedicated myself to running the company alongside our employees. Together, we led it to steady growth. My brother's downfall became an unintended lesson in humility, and the unity within our company grew stronger than ever. I promised my mother, and myself, that I would continue my father's work, ensuring that his legacy lived on. This company wasn't just about money, it was about family, dedication, and hard work, and I would do everything in my power to make him proud.